Welcome to the Upshift Conversations, conversations that matter with people who matter. I am Ervin Lazlo. According to Shakespeare, Hamlet said, to be or not to be, that is the question. Today's question is, do we evolve into the next level of our evolution, of our being on Earth, or do we let ourselves drift down to increasing conflict and chaos? I've invited some of the most insightful, inspired, and renowned thought leaders of our time to address this question. Their answers will upshift your spirit, will inform your thinking. Come, join me, witness some remarkable experiences, remarkable conversations with thought leaders about our common shared future.
Hello and welcome to Ervin Laszlo's Upshift Conversation series. Thank you so much for being here. And today we have a very special guest, Thomas Legrand. He's holding a PhD in ecological economics and having studied international development, political science, and management. He works in the field of sustainability for UN agencies, private companies, and NGOs. His focus is on forest conservation, climate change, sustainable finance, leadership, and how to cultivate inner capacities for systemic transformation. He is currently the lead technical advisor for the Conscious Food Systems Alliance, convened by the United Nations Development Programme. His spiritual journey began at the age of 23 with an encounter with native spirituality in Mexico, before embracing the wisdom of a wide range of traditions and practices, including meditation, energetic healing, and Tai Chi Chuan. He lives with his wife and their two young daughters near Plum Village, the monastery of Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh in the southwest of France, his own country. His new book is titled The Politics of Being, which aims at aligning our institutions with our true reason to be here on Earth, becoming who we are, the best and most complete version of ourselves. What a wonderful sentiment. It's truly amazing. Thank you so much, Thomas, for being here with us today.
Thank you very much, Nora. Great honor to be here with you and Ervin.
Ervin, would you like to start the conversation today with Thomas?
Philosopher, it's my pleasure, Nora, to have as a guest Thomas. We need to have people who can think ahead, who can feel ahead, who can experience and can live up to their experience. I would like to say 2 words only about this series, Upshift Conversations. Why Upshift and why Conversations? We don't say that Upshift is going to come. We say Upshift needs to come, must come, if we are to persist and thrive on this planet. And how could it come? We are now in a situation where we are open to change. The incredible happenings of the past year or so, the war in the Middle East, the war in Eastern Europe, these are unprecedented, unforeseen events, all of a sudden eruptions of violence, which trigger local conflicts, wars is threatened to escalate. Something is happening which is deeper down than just the surface politics or surface economics. Something is happening to the psyche of humanity. Something triggers these sudden eruptions. It is shaking up the system that was perhaps needed to be shaken up. Maybe that's the constructive side of it, because it has been moving slowly but inexorably, it seems, towards a greater and greater crisis and ultimately towards breakdown. To continue the way we have been, to sustain what there is and what has been in the past years without major change is suicidal. It's basically it's not an option. The option is to change, not whether we change, but how we change. And for that, we recognize that there must be ways found forward. What better ways to find the ways forward than to inquire and to convene together, or individually, each one of them, as the case may be, the leading minds, the truly insightful people of this planet, of humanity. This is just what we are trying to do in this series, to find out through informal conversations, chatting about it, but thinking about it deeply and spontaneously, unrestrained, saying what we have in mind, so that these insightful people can generate the insight that they have, that they must share, that they can share, by sharing what they think, by telling us how they see, what they feel about us today and tomorrow. This is the way forward, to find the way forward. Big politics, big economics, ecology, and all that, as Thomas knows and has explored, must be here. But we must need that trigger, the divine spark, which tells us this is the way going to go forward. The way forward must be met, because if we don't meet it, you break down. We can't stay the way we have been. So either way forward or out. I think we'll go forward, but to realize this hope, this aspiration, we must interview people who have the imagination, who have the instinct, the insight, really, in the deeper sense of the word, of what is happening and what way could be found forward, what is truly at stake. This series of conversations bring you conversations dedicated to this idea. What is happening? How can we go forward? Knowing that we must go, and there is no alternative. We must go forward. So now in this series, we have a wonderful episode waiting for us just now, by Thomas Legrand, an eminent thinker, scientist, and insightful individual who will discuss with us what he thinks the case may be. What this unique wake-up call, which triggered violence in the East, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, and in many hotspots in the world, what all this means, what all this can be used as a wake-up to change and to look for the way forward, asking for our instincts, not only our mathematics and our technology, but our instincts, our insights. What is the way forward? Thank you, Thomas, for being with us. And without further ado, I would like to ask you, how do you think about the word today? Upshift. We are having upshift conversations. Is there a real upshift waiting for us? Can we make it come to us? Can we become part of it? I think you have deeply insightful answers to all these questions, and I look forward to your sharing it. Thomas, your views, please.
Thank you so much, Ervin. A great pleasure to be with you. In my own past, I've worked a lot as an environmentalist, and that came out of this spiritual experience, kind of awakening, we could say, I had when I was young in Mexico, and which led me to a path of service, and quickly that was for Mother Earth, and in particular working on forest conservation. And as an environmentalist, I've realized that there is little we can achieve within this current development paradigm emphasizing economic growth. I've also been part of strategic assignments with countries, looking at how they could develop in a way that is ecologically sound. And I've realized there was never the space in these conversations to go back to the root causes of our problems, right? In which are our collective mindsets, worldviews, values, and that's what we really need to change to be able to overcome this systemic crisis we are facing, which is actually an evolutionary crisis. I think we all agree with that. And that led me to work on this book, Politics of Being, trying to ask the question about what is a wisdom-based approach to development. And I find this answer in the Earth Charter, which says when basic needs have been met, human development is primarily about being more rather than having more. And I was surprised to find out that nobody really developed what it means in theory and in practice. And that's what I did. I worked 10 years on this book, Politics of Being, Wisdom and Science for a New Development Paradigm. Because I think that's really the bottom line. We need to shift our vision of progress towards something not so much materialistic, but rather, that the new frontier are within us. There's so much human potential that is untapped, and it's both the end goal, that's what truly human development is about, but it's also the means that we need to change our systems, right? They are based on a common, we could say, modern worldview mindset, and that needs to evolve to the next stage for us to be able to flourish on this earth.
Absolutely, Thomas. This is such an important point, to be more rather just to have more. And to be more requires a new level of understanding, of new level of insight, a new level of being, as you write in your book. The key is the mindset. The key is the way we think, the way we believe, what we aspire to, what we think we are, and what we think the world around is. This mindset change, it can be triggered by a small group, because it could be contagious, it could spread. A small group must articulate this. Individuals also must articulate the mindset that they think will lead to thriving, to evolution on this planet. You are doing that in your book, The Politics of Being. Would you tell us, Thomas, some of the key issues, some of the key points that you found, the key features of the mindset that we need? How does it differ from the current dominant mindset? How could we move toward it?
Yeah, I think first of all, it has to do with what we perceive as human flourishing. Right now, a lot of our role model or vision of success has a lot to do about money, power, fame, and really more and more science tells us that actually this is not very conducive to well-being and fulfillment. And if we understand that fulfillment really comes through this kind of inner transformation, where we, become more master of ourselves, where we become also more connected, feeling part of nature, feeling, not that sense of separation, but rather connection, empathy, love with everyone on this planet. And have a different view about also reality, how it works, and is not separated from the inner and outer are not separated. And the way we think, for example, the way we imagine the world, the way we work with our intentions have actually, impact the reality. So if we are creators of our reality. So that's a kind, I think, just a few sentences, this fundamental shift, which is in essence also awakening to our to the fact that we are spiritual beings, right? And once we understand that, then what we need to do is much more obvious and much more positive for the world, of course.
Of course, the big question is, as always, how do we get the bulk of humanity, the decisive mass of humanity, to realize that we are spiritual beings in your term, that we are not just out here to strive and to compete for power and wealth. That is a deeper mission for us. I call this the sacred mission of humanity, to become one with the planet, with the universe, and to connect, to do everything so that we are part of a process of evolution and not just something that stands in its way, or we can't stand outside of it. We either promote it or we block it. We have been blocking this evolution by being selfish, self-centered. How do we move forward? We need a more evolved humanity, more evolved mindset. What are some of the means? What are some of the techniques? What are some of the methods that you would recommend to follow up what you have yourself experienced, an upshift, an illumination, an enchantment? You yourself have experienced the spiritual being that you are. How can we get others to move in that direction? Not to dismiss it as just fantasy, but to embrace it and to make it their own, to follow up what is a mission for humanity, to become one, to become coherent with, truly a part of this evolutionary community that has been developing on this planet. What are the means? What would you suggest people to do so that they can become more spiritual in their essence, in their being? What is your recommendation?
So I think there are two aspects to this question. One is really that vision of being a spiritual being. And I think, there are some current conditions that are favorable, like, the freedom, the kind of conversations we're having is now more and more available to, globally. And I think that is because of the freedom we are experiencing somehow. Political, religious, the globalization with a growing interspiritual movement, the science also that is pointing in that direction. The other aspect, I would say, when I talk about being, I'm not separating, a kind of secular vision from the more spiritual insight. And to me, being is about becoming who we are, or true nature, which I believe indeed is spiritual, and the best version of ourselves, right? And I think it's important to recognize that our societies are currently organized in a way that is not very favorable to that. We have there's a whole system is based on some disconnection at some levels of us from who we really are, and manipulation, including for the sake of the economic systems, and driving us towards, more consumption and trying to be through consumption, which obviously doesn't work. And the fact that our institutions are based on this vision of the Homo economicus, or us being selfish, materialistic, competitive individuals. I build on my work on the work of Elinor Ostrom, which was the first woman to receive the Nobel Prize in economics. And basically, she said when she received that Nobel Prize, she said that people like her were used to assume that people were selfish and that they build this or institution around that assumption. And now the main learning she drew from 50 years of research was that, on the contrary, we should design institutions that bring out the best in human. And that goes, in my book, I develop what it means very concretely, based on existing examples in many sectors, including, the way starting, with the way we educate our children at school, but also, how we can support their parents to be present and building a safe, loving space, especially at the early age, so that they can develop. And in all aspects of society, basically, because I'm a social scientist, so I believe there is some kind of conditioning, from our institutions. We can't separate who we are as individuals from our society or culture. So we have to understand that at the moment, most of these institutions are not guiding people in the right direction, and we can consciously redesign that to foster that true human flourishing.
But how can we have the power to foster this change? How can we change people from being just competitive, just mindlessly pursuing their own short-term interests, when they are confronted with war, confronted with violent conflict, spreading, with violent opposition in the election of the people whom we try to designate as their leaders. This conflict is in all levels and in all societies. It needs a really serious mindset change. It needs to convert from this pursuing just our immediate interest to a broader interest, perceiving that there is a broader, deeper interest which connects all of us. This deeper interest is to become one, to be loving, to connect, to become coherent with each other and with the world around us. There's marvelous information coming forth from the sciences, as you know, as a scientist yourself, but also from the natural sciences, even from physics and cosmology, that this universe is not a place of a haphazard development. It's not a chance-based universe. There is something deeper moving forward. But this deeper can be overshadowed, overpowered by the short-term conflicts. The deeper wish is toward love, toward understanding, towards coherence. This I've tried to show, and many others, you yourself, show is part of nature, part of the universe. Universe is an evolving sphere towards higher and higher levels of coherence, starting from the initial Big Bang, which ruptured the pre-existing system, which must have been a seamless whole on this planet, and created instead a movement which you can describe as a movement toward oneness, recovering the oneness that this universe had 17.8 billion years ago and then became ruptured. It is being recovered, and we are agents of this recovery. We are agents who can look toward creating a closer connection between us, between our own personal development and the evolution of life on the planet. This is a tremendous task. It seems like a forbiddingly enormous task from a world which is rent by conflict and by violence, dominated by these negative aspects. To create, moving from the idea that this is our destiny, moving to the idea that this is a trigger, this is a catalyst, this is something that shakes up the system and creates a process of evolution, something that scientists, myself included, call the bifurcation, a fundamental change, which cannot open the way forward or can dip us down into chaos, but cannot leave us the way we are. How to be moved to the direction whereby this tremendous global trigger of wars, of violence, of unsustainable ecology, of climate change, these are just key lines, key terms that are now shaking up the system. Nowadays, if there is something wrong with the world around us, it's usual to say, okay, it's just climate change, the climate change. But what causes the climate change? It's not nature, it's not the universe, it's the mindsets of human beings. And that is what we need to change. So I'm hopeful that this change can happen if you become aware of it. You are also a wake-up person. We are all wake-up scientists, wake-up artists, trying to shake up the system, which is already shaken, but trying to make this shake-up into a positive trigger toward the next level of evolutionary development, which is toward coherence, toward oneness. A tremendous, seemingly quixotic trend, quixotic aspiration. But it is a sine qua non. It's either we achieve it or we go down in flames, in most literal as well as metaphoric sense. So here we are on the cusp. We need to move forward, and people like yourself, Thomas, can be key contributors to finding the way. Please, a last wise words from you. We are on the cusp. We are on the point of bifurcation. We can move forward. We could move forward. How can we do that, actually? What would you recommend that people actually do? You think you said already a few words about it, but say something that we can remember, we can take home with us. This is our task. This is, in my term, our sacred mission. Change for the better. How do we do that? Any insight of yours would be deeply, deeply appreciated.
I think, thank you, Ervin. I think we have to be able to perceive what is going on, and these are recognizing that these all of what is going wrong in the world are evolutionary pressures. They are part of this process of evolution for us to be able to look deeply at the real causes, which, as you said, are mainly internal causes, and for us to be able to do this collective transformation. So being able to embrace this process, understand it's a process where a lot of the problems that we have within of us are manifesting in the world, and they are calling for our attention. They are calling for healing. We see all the traumas of the past very active in prompting all these conflicts, and we really need to be able to acknowledge what's going on and really to address that that inner transformation we need to do. And I would say it's important to, from this view, it's important to keep hope in that process. That yes, we have a lot of old systems crumbling and prompting a lot of destructions, but just acknowledging that somehow this is part of the process. It seems that we need that to be able to awaken about what's wrong with us. And that often in history, the breakthrough follows the breakdown. And that's the most important and empowering aspects of this moment. Yeah, there is a lot of darkness, there is a lot of destruction, but we need to keep our awareness on this, greater light that wants to spread in the world, and that can follow this process of destruction, which is also a process of sorry, I'm missing the word, of cleaning up somehow, of purification. That was the word I was looking at, right? So just I think it's important to I'm reminding myself that as we enter through a moment in history that can look like very, very dark, just always be aware of the light is not so far away. Sometimes we can't see it, but it's part of this process, and maybe all that what is unfolding right now is needed for the shift that we want to see and that we have been waiting for so long. So that's really the most important aspect of our times, is really these breakthrough. They are not the breakdowns.
Thank you, Thomas. This is a deep insight. The shift can be a shift to a positive new world. It can be, and it's up to us. It's not fatal either one way or another. It's an evolutionary development, and the key to it is in our hands. We either join it or we break down. To see beyond the current crisis is the great task, is the great aspiration that we must share together. You contribute to this. Your book is a tremendous, wonderful testimony to how we can move forward and what the key points are. And this discussion has already highlighted some elements. Transformation, yes. Inner transformation, evidently, yes. Who can do it? We can do it, because it's our transformation. We are either the precursor or breakdown, or a scout, a forecaster, a forerunner of evolution. Up to us. And people like you, and I was called myself, and my colleagues of this series, their partners among them, are trying to find the way forward, because we know that the key is in us, the key is us, and the key is love and understanding and coherence. Understanding that beyond all the suffering, the violence, the trauma, the competition that we witness today, there is a deeper sense of movement, a deeper movement, actually, a movement that is evolution, the deep evolution that is fundamentally the real evolution beyond the surface manifestations of conflict and disagreement. Thank you again for being with us. And in this sense of positive aspiration, recognizing that we are the change we want to see in the world, that this is the way we can move forward, contributing to these discussions, to the series of discussions that were devoted to this understanding, to the growth and spread of this understanding. Thank you again. Thank you, Nora, our co-host. Thank you, Ken Foster, the host of this series, for organizing this. And first of all, in this time, thank you, Thomas Legrand, for being with us and sharing your insight with us.
Thank you so much, Ervin, for leading us away for so long, and for your pioneering work. Thank you.